Master P ruffles some feathers with this.
Negative mindset out of our culture because they still going back to, oh man, slavery, they did us this. And I'm like, you still harping on that.
Because while the black community has always supported and appreciated P's hustle and business acumen, for a lot of us, it feels like a slap in the face for him to tell the black community to stop harping over slavery. As if structural racism, discrimination, and systematic oppression in America haven't played a part in black people being behind the ball financially.
How you build a wealth gap on purpose. The GI Bill wasn't administered equal. Black veterans denied home loans by racist banks, denied college by segregated racist universities, denied job training in fields unsuitable for their race.
And that whole pull yourself up from the bootstraps rhetoric is something we've been hearing from racists for decades.
Legacy of slavery and segregation. I believe we ought to do all we can and seek to lift ourselves by our own bootstraps. But it's a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
While I think we all need to build businesses if possible, and build as much generational wealth as we can, to act like the legacy of slavery, discrimination, or racism haven't affected the black community is a slap in the face.
Take 2 steps forward if you never had to help mom or dad with the bills.
This is tough.
Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability, you don't have to pay for college.
But I'm Jude, welcome to the channel. Please like and share the video. Don't forget to sub. Now, let's get into it.
How come we don't own our own tennis shoe when Nike started out of their garage? Like, Phil Knight started out of his garage. And I tell people all the time, look, it's not about a color. Like, think about it. Even though when I help black-owned business, I'm doing that because we at the bottom of the totem pole. But we want to create product for everybody. This product is for everybody, blacks, white, Asian, Latino, but it don't have too many black-owned companies. Like, show me how many black-owned tennis shoe companies out there that's making functional shoes that actually own it.
P jumped across a few different topics. If you're a business owner, you should be making products or services for everybody, unless you have a black-owned business with products and services designed strictly for the black community, which is also fine. But when he's talking about black-owned companies in the shoe industry, that's a completely different discussion. There are a ton of black-owned shoe companies, just not in the mainstream like Adidas or Nike, Reebok, New Balance, anything like that. Which is funny, actually, because when you look up black-owned shoes, Master P's shoe that he's showing off right here has a very strong resemblance to another black company shoe, 19.9. But there are a ton of black-owned shoe brands out there. You have to be in the loop or know exactly who they are, the brand, to probably stay in touch, which speaks to another issue when it comes to the shoe industry, and that's the super high barrier of entry. Getting into the shoe industry is hard because it requires high startup costs from molds and inventory, complex manufacturing with long production delays, high return rates from sizing issues, and heavy market competition from global brands. So when you're speaking about black-owned shoe companies, a lot of these would be issues. One, because most black people don't receive any type of inheritance from family. Only 13% of black families receive an inheritance compared to nearly 34% of white families. And two, because black entrepreneurs receive way less funding from banks.
I've been in business such a long time. Back in 2019, I purchased my first food truck. It cost me over $25,000. I paid it cash money. I worked hard to pay for this truck. I'm now selling it. I had a guy come to look at purchasing my vehicle, or my food truck. And he explained to me he's an illegal immigrant. He has no credit. He has no money in the bank. But he showed me his paperwork that he will receive funds to purchase my food truck. I'm thankful that he's buying it, but I'm hurt that I worked so hard to pay cash for my food truck. I have good credit. Can't even get a business loan because of the color of my skin.
It's not that many. It's a problem.
Yeah.
So when I find a problem, you know, my passion get like, I need to do this. I got to show the world. In the food industry, I realized that we didn't have enough healthy alternative foods for us. So I found a problem. I created Miller Family Food. I said, well, you know, I got to make healthy alternative foods, snacks, everything.
Is that based out of New Orleans?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so I was inspired by going to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And, you know, in the Black Wall Street, 1920, what happened to our people. And it's like you had so many successful, rich black people, and it was burned down. But I met this guy that owned a grocery store called Oasis.
A.J. Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put my food in your grocery store, and I'm going to support you. We support all these other companies. but why not support Oasis and AJ?
That's an interesting way that he framed that with the black-owned grocery store. They basically will be supporting each other, not Master P supporting him. He's letting Master P sell his Miller Farm products in his store. So he would be supporting Master P just as much as Master P is supporting him. Just an interesting frame, and not trying to nitpick, though.
And AJ.
He's doing good stuff in the community, and what you know about that store, as I've been down there, is that the predominantly of that area that's white is poor individuals, you know, and so I love the work that he's doing. But when you think about, again, being yourself, what's been the biggest surprise of the stardom? I mean, you've been in this game for a very, very long time. What's been the biggest surprise about it all?
Our own culture don't believe that we could do it, you know, because they just don't get it. They're like, how you could do this? I mean, like, if I could do it, anybody could do it. You don't have to be the smartest person in the world. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You just got to have integrity and do good business. And these doors will open up for you, building great relationships. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, trying to get that negative mindset out of our culture, because they still going back to, oh man, slavery, they did us this. And I'm like, you still harping on that, man. I never harped on that. Because I can't change the past, but I can change the future.
It feels like Master P has to be talking about people doubting him from the early 90s when he got that $10,000 inheritance check or whatever it was and started a record store in the Bay Area. Because for millennials on, every generation after that, the black community has been very entrepreneurial, business-minded. People know they can start businesses, be successful. They see it all the time online. And beyond all of that, I've never heard anybody in my whole entire life said they can't do something because of slavery. They can't start a business or be successful because of slavery. When black people talk about slavery, systematic oppression, racism, discrimination, we are talking about a lack of generational wealth in the black community, a lack of options, a lack of opportunities that other cultures and races get. To be clear, black people have been far behind white people when it came to building wealth due to slavery in and of itself. Because black labor during slavery, during those 250 years of slavery, was completely free, which means white slave owners and every other institution that benefited from that free labor were allowed to make money and build wealth based off free labor, while black people weren't allowed to own anything and weren't free. In the year 2000, economist Robert S. Brown calculated that the income produced by enslaved people for their white owners prior to 1860 was between 1.4 trillion and 4.7 trillion in modern money. And when there was a slight hope of catching up through reparations, the government reneged. In 1865, at the conclusion of the Civil War that ended slavery, free slaves were promised 40 acres and a mule to build an economic future for themselves. But the government reneged on that deal, and black Americans started their free lives empty-handed. Imagine starting completely over from scratch. No money, nowhere to live, no education, no real work experience other than working in a field, and having to start over while the world around you just continues to move. By some estimates, that land will have been worth as much as $3.1 trillion today. Don't ever let anybody gaslight you that we're crying when we talk about slavery or the injustices that black people have had against them, especially when it comes to economic disparities. But the part that isn't really discussed too often, instead of black people receiving reparations that we were promised, they gave those reparations to white people. Just as free slaves were being denied the land promised to them, the U.S. government provided a wealth-building stimulus that overwhelmingly benefited white Americans. The Homestead Acts of the 1860s were meant to help settle the American West. Black people weren't excluded, but few had the resources to migrate, clear land, and set up farms. Kind of like how black soldiers or black veterans weren't excluded from the GI Bill because by law they had the GI Bill, but there were no American institutions that allowed them to use the GI Bill. Black men served, bled, and died for this country in every war it fought. But when they came home, they were still treated like they weren't given the GI Bills that other white veterans were given when they came home.
The lie of equal opportunity, AKA how you build a wealth gap on purpose. They went to school, bought homes, built wealth. But here's the catch. The GI Bill wasn't administered equally.
Meaning they couldn't buy homes for their family and build wealth to pass down generations. And if they were able to buy homes, they had to deal with redlining, which is where they were told where they were allowed to buy a home and live.
Local agencies controlled who got what. And local meant Jim Crow South and redlined north.
And in the long run, a lot of those property values didn't go up like they did in white neighborhoods, meaning white people were able to build even more wealth, while people that fought and bled for this country struggled.
Black veterans denied home loans by racist banks, denied college by segregated racist universities, denied job training in fields unsuitable for their race.
It's estimated that about 15% of Americans today are descendants of mostly white original homesteaders who were granted 270 million acres of land, a tenth of the country's area, mostly seized from Native Americans. We're talking about each generation having to get out of the mud. We're talking about in 2025, 2026, still being the first high school graduate or the first college graduate or the first person with a master's or a doctorate in your family. That's what we're talking about when we talk about these things. This kind of reminded me of that privilege exercise or experiment that happened like 8-10 years ago, where you step forward if you receive a certain privilege, and you can see how far back a lot of black people start.
Everybody line up, shoulder to shoulder, take off your backpacks. We are racing for a $100 bill. Before I say go, I'm gonna make a couple statements. If those statements apply to you, I want you to take 2 steps forward. If those statements don't apply to you, I want you to stay right where you're at. Take 2 steps forward if both of your parents are still married. Take 2 steps forward if you grew up with a father figure in the home. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a private education. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to worry about your cell phone being shut off. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to help mom or dad with the bills.
This is tough.
Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability, you don't have to pay for college. Take 2 steps forward if you never wondered where your next meal was going to come from. I want you guys up here in the front just to turn around and look.
Because the impacts of slavery, segregation, Jim Crow, redlining, all of that is very real and still impacts us today. You can just look at home ownership as one of those things. If your great-grandparents never bought a home, your grandparents never bought a home, your parents never bought a home, how can they help you buy a home? You have to do it all your own, get it out the mud yourself, become the first generation to become a homeowner. Meanwhile, you have white people with generations of home ownership going back to the 1800s, and they all help their kids buy houses, they all give them inheritance, they all put them way ahead of the starting line that a black person has to start out. That is the impact and legacy of slavery, of segregation, of Jim Crow, of racism in this country that still impacts black people. And that's not even addressing racism in the workplace, where black people that were qualified and overqualified for jobs wouldn't get it because of the color of their skin. But unqualified white people would get those jobs because of the color of their skin or the connections they have and continue to be promoted. And even today, we're still dealing with things like the racial wage gap. The racial wage gap starts as early as 16 years old for black workers, and most black people never catch up with white counterparts. But that's not telling black people to give up, be lazy, or you can't do something. Black people are out here hustling. We are building our careers. We are getting our degrees. We are in the trades and using that to kick off business ownership. But acting like slavery is a thing of the past that we all need to get over without acknowledging the frameworks and ideologies that still impact the black community today is very harmful, and spreading that mindset on a platform like Forbes is crazy. On top of all of that, in the same breath, Maspia is going to bring up Black Wall Street being destroyed and looted by a racist white mob. What little wealth black families were able to build after the Civil War was often violently destroyed. In a massacre in 1921, mobs of police officers in Tulsa, Oklahoma, burned down what was known as Black Wall Street, obliterating $200 million in homes and businesses and displacing 10,000 black residents. Which happened in 1921, which was only 50 years before he was born in 1970. So we're not talking about ancient history here, especially with people from Black Wall Street still being alive.
And I think you got to get used to us being successful. And I think a lot of us, we block our own blessings because we don't think that we could do it because we're looking at a color. So, I mean, Muhammad Ali was a guy that, and I loved like his story because he didn't care about that. He just wanted to be around good people, but he did represent for the culture. Right. And I want more African-American owned tennis shoe companies. I don't want this just to be me. I want so many different product brands owned by us, but making it for everybody. Because think about it, when other cultures make products, they don't make it for them, they make it for everybody. And so I want that mindset of our people. If I could change that, that's the way we're going to bridge the wealth gap.
First off, what he's saying is false. There are a ton of products specifically for white men or white women or people of lighter skin tones. You can look at the skincare industry, right? They weren't making products for everybody. Rihanna became a billionaire with Fenty because she was making products for melanated people. You can look at a company like Bevel, which was a huge success because they created products for black people where there weren't products for black people before. So to say everybody creates products for everybody everybody is false. A lot of people of color just end up using products created for white people. And again, there's nothing wrong creating products for black people because there's a large enough consumer base to do so. I think we as individuals should do everything in our power to improve our finances, start businesses, create generational wealth, buy property. I know that's a little outreach for most people these days, but we should put ourselves in the best financial position possible. We should build businesses in the black community and keep our dollars circulating in the black community. But that is not going to close the wealth gap created and maintained by a racist system in this country. From slavery till now, there has to be a legit institutional correction and reparations for this wealth gap to realistically ever be closed. Even though we can do our best to put ourselves and our family and our circles and those around us in position to build and maintain generational wealth.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest negative surprise of it all? The biggest negative surprise of the stardom?
Our people can't work together.
So you telling me everything that he has to say negative about his experience in business has to do with the black community? That's crazy. He's never experienced anything bad on any other site, just about black people.
Think about when I go down Rodale Drive and see all these stores. They're owned by all the same kind of looking people. None of them fighting. None of them caring about what each other have or got. And I love that. I want to see that for our culture and our people. That's why I fight to educate our culture and our people, because we got to get on that page. Like, if we get on that page, we're going to be dangerous because we spend $1 trillion a year.
2.1 trillion.
2.1 trillion, think about it. And we don't own nothing. And we make 0.1% of black CEOs in Fortune 500 companies, but we spending all the money.
That right there goes back to slavery, which he told us to get over and stop harping on. This whole video kind of threw me off. It made me tweet, modern black celebrities aren't equipped to be in and shouldn't be accepted as leaders or voices of the black community. Most are greedy and completely out of touch. It seems like most black celebrities either don't care about the black community or they are fine serving as that one example that, see, a black person got rich, a black person can make it, racism isn't real, get over slavery, stop crying about this, kind of like what Master P is saying right now. It's been a history of that, where one black person makes it. If there's an Oprah, there's no racism, everybody can make it. And that's just not true. And a lot of people felt the exact same way about this video and what Master P was saying. Master P is very off code or extremely ignorant and needs the right person to wake him up. Master P really thinks you can capitalism your way past slavery. Like, yeah, nigga, slavery happened, but that was then get some money. Nigga, what? Building wealth matters, but money doesn't erase the systems and consequences that came from slavery. Big facts. His brother is serving time in a goddamn plantation right now. That man been locked up in Angola since the 2000s. He's talking about slavery like this legacy of slavery doesn't touch everything in American society, and there is no bootstrap strong enough to lift out of that. Yeah, you know, that's basically what he was getting to. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But Martin Luther King himself addressed that 60 years ago.
And when white Americans tell the Negro to lift himself by his own bootstraps, they don't look over the legacy of slavery and segregation. I believe we ought to do all we can and seek to lift ourselves by our own bootstraps. But it's a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And many Negroes, by the thousands and millions, have been left bootless as a result of all of these years of oppression and as a result of a society that deliberately made his color a stigma and something worthless and degrading.
And because of the instant pushback and backlash he received, he came back out to address his statements.
What's up, y'all? For the ones in the back that came here, stop making them false narratives. I love my people. When you talk about slavery, our ancestors been through so much and we're not gonna forget it. You know what I'm saying? But what I wanna tell y'all is, even though we're gonna always be aware of it, but we have to do something to bridge the wealth gap. That's what I'm saying. We can't change the past, but we can change the future, and we're gonna constantly fight and educate our people. But I wanna let y'all know, Apple is making $32 million an hour. How do we get a piece of that? Because we need to be able to bridge the wealth gap. That's the only thing I'm saying. And that's the only way it's going to happen. We got to educate our people, to educate our culture. And that's what I'm doing.
He still doesn't get it. Shout out to Master P, man. He has been a great inspiration to a lot of people in the black community. But he does not get the systematic impact that the legacy of slavery still has on people today. I want people to get out there to get degrees, to start their own practices, and start businesses, to master these trades and turn those into their own businesses. People need to hustle. They need to grind. We need to get it how we can. But that does not erase the uphill battle battle that we're up against. And Master P still didn't really address that. It seems like he's kind of doubling down, but it is what it is. But shout out to my channel and Patreon members. Thank you so much for supporting, and thanks for watching. Y'all let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Also, make sure you check out the next video, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes and life stuff, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.